We're going to turn now to my exclusive interview with President Obama. Comes at a tough moment of his presidency with crises on our border and overseas, stalemate with Congress, some of his lowest polls ever. We talked about all that as he traveled to Minnesota for the first of what he's calling day-in-the-life visits across America.
Hello, Minneapolis.
The president's trip is one more move to break out of the White House bubble and convince the country he's working for people like Rebecca Eller, who he came to see after she wrote the president about her family's struggles.
She's asking, if I'm working really hard, can I find affordable child care? You know, if I'm going back to school, why am I not eligible for some tax credits to offset the tuition? And it breaks my heart sometimes to think that we can't get our act together enough to do that. For us not to try makes a mockery of our democracy.
But will trips like this make a difference? Obama blames Republicans for not passing his proposals, but now the public is blaming him.
More than half Americans have lost confidence in your ability to lead the country and get the job done. That must have been stunning to you. Disappointing?
I've been dealing with stuff like this since 2009.
How do you turn it around?
There have been a number of times where the punditry said, gosh, how do you turn it around? And what we do is stay focused on what matters and chip away at it and try to make progress. People have health care. The economy has gotten a lot better. What I do worry about is that right now we've got a Republican Party that seems to only care about saying no to me.
So he's gone around Congress, using the president's executive power and setting up a new high-stakes battle with Republicans.
You've got Speaker Boehner talking about suing you for executive actions that he says has crossed the line. He says, we elected a president, we didn't elect a monarch or king.
Well, you notice that he didn't specifically say what exactly he was objecting to. I'm not going to apologize for trying to do something while they're doing nothing.
Even if you get sued?
The suit is a stunt. But what I've told Speaker Boehner directly is, if you're really concerned about me taking too many executive actions, why don't you try getting something done through Congress? The majority of American people want to see immigration reform done. We had a bipartisan bill through the Senate, and you're going to squawk if I try to fix some parts of it administratively that are within my authority while you are not doing anything?
You mentioned immigration. There's a humanitarian crisis on the border. Some of your critics have said you have to speak out more directly to the people of Central America and say, don't come. If you come, you will be deported.
Well, we've done that. The problem is that under current law, once those kids come across the border, there's a system in which we're supposed to process them, take care of them, until we can send them back. It's a lengthy process.
Is your message don't come?
Oh, our message absolutely is don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. That is our direct message to the families in Central America. Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back. More importantly, they may not make it.
Let's talk about Iraq. How serious is this ISIS threat to people here in Minnesota, around the country? I was so struck by an article that Ryan Crocker, who served as Iraq ambassador under you, wrote last week. He said, make no mistake, this is global jihad. It's coming our way. They have 2,000 fighters with Western passports, don't need a visa to get in. Are we under serious threat right now from ISIS?
I think we have been under serious threat my entire presidency, and we have been under serious threat predating 9/11 from those who embrace this ideology.
But they're gaining strength, aren't they?
Well, they're gaining strength in some places, but we've also gotten a lot better at protecting ourselves.
Let me ask you a final question on foreign policy. It comes from something you wrote back in 2006, An Audacity of Hope. You were talking about President Bush's foreign policy strategy, and you said, without a well-articulated strategy that the public supports and the world understands, America will lack the legitimacy and ultimately the power it needs to make the world safer than it is today. The majority of Americans don't support your path on foreign policy. So are you failing by your own standard?
George, and I know we go back to the polls, but let me just say that throughout the first half of my presidency, polls consistently showed strong support for my foreign policy.
But the public has to support it, doesn't it?
But not at every minute, George, not every week, because there are going to be times where the world is messy. One of the things you also realize during the course of 5 years is that if the problems were easy, somebody else would have solved them already. And one of the great challenges of this job, but one of the great privileges of this job is that you know, you're tackling stuff that is really tough, and I'm glad that after 5 years I'm still here able to do it.
And later on, we're going to, of course, get the president's analysis of Team USA and how Sachin Malia growing up is changing how he feels about the White House.